spinning wheel. All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Lit Chick. We're so excited. This is my first time hosting. Summer is like winding down, but we're definitely still keeping it hot. We've got lots of rom-coms coming up here on Lit Chick. Our good friend Jenna Payon is taking a little bit of a break to work on her own book, which is so exciting, and I'm sure you'll be hearing a lot more about that. But today I'm here with my first guest, Lillie Vale, who I'm so excited to be speaking with today. She is about the Shoddy Setup. Please show us the book. Gorgeous cover. Absolutely love that like peachy orange color. So gorgeous. So Lillie is the author of young adult novels Small Town Hearts and the forthcoming Beauty and the Besharam, as well as the Shoddy Setup, which came out on Tuesday. She writes about secrets and yearning, complicated, and ambitious girls who know what they want, the places we call home, and people we find our way back to, and the magic we make. I love that part of your bio. That's so beautiful. Born in Mumbai, she grew up in Mississippi, Texas, and North Dakota, and now she lives in an Indiana college town. So shout out to college towns in the Midwest. That's where I'm from too. And the Shoddy Setup is her debut adult romantic comedy. So first of all, Lillie, congratulations. So exciting. I know this publishing week has been really crazy, but we're so excited for you. Thank you. You've gotten so much great praise too. I mean, you got a starred review from Publishers Weekly about how you evenly balance heart and heat, which I think is totally true. And Shelf Awareness also called the Shoddy Setup a perfect, pitch perfect contemporary love story. And it's super contemporary, which I love about it. Although nice kind of echoes of our favorite rom-coms of yore. And I've told you, like, I think that Rita is such an incredible protagonist for me. That was the thing I just like fell in love with the book. She's so real. She's so clear with what she wants about some things, maybe not love, but she knows what she wants from her career, and she's so creative. So I just would love for you to tell us like a little bit about the book, because we want our viewers to get a copy. So Shoddy Setup, give us a pitch.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that fantastic intro. Like she already said, I'm the author of the Shoddy Setup, and it's a slow burn exes to lovers second chance rom-com taking place between Rita Chitnis, a furniture restorer, and her high school sweetheart, Milan Rao, who also happens to be the boy who broke her heart 6 years ago in a really spectacularly cruel way. Things aren't really perfect with her current boyfriend, Neil, but they're good enough for right now, and that's all she's really looking for, is just someone to have fun with in the present, and she's not thinking too far in the future, you know, as maybe a lot of us in our 20s don't. But her mom is a believer in second chances, and she sets her up with Milan, who's now a real estate agent, and she volunteers Rita's interior design skills to help Milan flip a really hard to sell house. Rita is, of course, you know, stunned and taken aback to come face to face with her ex-boyfriend after so many years. And she's really like taken, like she's can't deal with it. And unfortunately it happens when her mother, her grandmother, and even her dad like enter the scene, and she can't process all of these like conflicting emotions. It's like a cocktail of, am I still attracted to him? Spoiler alert, yes, she is. And do I still have this grudge against him? Absolutely, she does. And so she's kind of like processing that. And Milan, of course, is looking devastatingly handsome.
Yes, he's such a hottie, even in illustrated form. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, he's completely attractive. And she kind of gets this feeling that he thinks she's not over him yet. And she's not, but you know, she'll be darned if she lets him see that. Yeah. So she comes up with this like convoluted setup where she's going to sign herself and her current boyfriend up on myshoddy.com, which is a reputable Indian matchmaking site. And she thinks that if she convinces everyone that she and Neil are the perfect match, there's like no way anyone, Milan and her mother included, will ever think that Milan is the guy for her. And she thinks once she gets this validation, she's going to rub her match with Neil in Milan's face. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending how you look at it, you know, it's a rom-com. So these are famous last words, you know, like and the site proves her wrong pretty quickly when it matches her with the guy she least expected, which does happen to be Milan. And they're forced into this professional partnership with this match looming over their head that they don't quite know how to talk about. And I mean, that's on top of the fact that they're not really talking about what happened between them to split them up. And as they work together and get closer and get reacquainted with each other and how they've grown since they were teenagers and since college, Rita really has to start acknowledging what actually happened all those years ago to split them up, her mother's motivations in trying to get them back together, which are top secret, and Rita is not allowed to ever ask about why her mom actually believes in second chances so badly. And she has to consider whether broken things can ever really be fixed, which is ironic because she's a furniture restorer, and that's pretty much what she does for a living. Like,
I love that.
Yeah.
I love the way that's kind of echoes in the theme too, right? She wants to make things better and she wants to make things beautiful, and she has so much hope for like old things she finds in a thrift shop. She like is second chance, right? But
right, exactly.
In her love life, it's not the same, right?
Yeah, and I think that just speaks to, a lot of people, like when you're in a relationship or when you're in love, like maybe you don't see something that's right underneath your nose.
Absolutely. I know. And it's kind of fate. And I think it's funny, she's trying to trick the algorithm, but it's not just the algorithm, not just the computers, right? It's whatever fate is out in the universe too.
Yeah.
That was such a like beautiful description, Lillie. It makes me like want to go back and read the book again, which like I just totally devoured, in part because you have this slow burn with Milan where you introduce him, he comes knocking on the door literally, and you're just like, he's here. And then just over pages and pages. I know.
I can't imagine what I would do.
I was like screaming at her. I was like, open the door. But she's stubborn one, that Rita, and that's what makes her such a good protagonist. So yeah, I love Milan so much. He looks great on the cover. He looks great in my mind in the book. He's got great fashion sense. Like you described his outfits and his like little butt chin. I'm like, yes, the snack. I know exactly who this guy is. How did you come up with Milan? Did he come to you first? Did Rita come to you first? Like, how was that character kind of born?
Well, I knew I wanted to write a trope which I'd never written before, which was the second chance and exes to lovers. And they both popped into my mind at the same time, because at the time I was watching a lot of HGTV. I was watching like Flea Market Flip, especially, and a lot of shows about like renovating houses. And the whole idea for like Rita's character was actually born a long time before I got the idea for the book itself.
Okay, cool.
And I knew I just wanted to write a character like her who worked with her hands in something that was both technical and creative at the same time. And for Milan, I thought, well, if that's what she's doing for a living, who could her foil be? Like, what could her love interest be doing that could get them in the same room to work together? And I thought, realtor. And I mean, what if he has a really hard to sell house? And it kind of just went from there. Like, it just kind of all coalesced in a really nice way for me. And I loved talking about like Milan's fashion sense, because everything that Rita remembers about him from when they were in high school is he wears like a lot of white, black, and gray, like athletic wear. As a lot of guys.
Typical teen boy outfit.
Yeah. Typical. And like she kind of like staggers back, she reels back when she sees him, because he's always looking like really good in his dress pants and his Oxford shoes and his dress shirt and like the tie that she wants to like wrap her fist around to pull him closer. But
yeah, he had a real like kind of glow up, which makes the second chance resistance like even harder, right? Yeah. He's not the like goofy teenage boy that he was in high school. He's a man now with like a real job that he's good at. So
yeah,
I think that's really sexy. And the HGTV stuff is so fun. I just want to like tell of all of our viewers, if you are into like Flip or Flop or any of the Chip and Joanna games, like this is the book for you. I had so much fun like picturing the houses, and I would love to know a little bit like about how you came up with like that stuff. I know you were talking about like there's a certain software that she uses, right, to set up the design. And I was wondering if you'd played around with any of that kind of stuff while you were writing the book.
Unfortunately, I am not that technical. I mean, when I was little, like Rita in the book, like she had graph paper and she was like trying to design these houses. I did a lot of that when I was little. I don't think I was very good at it, but for a brief time, I really wanted to be like an architect.
Awesome.
And then I discovered The Sims.
Yes, girl. Yes.
And
I'm with you.
I love that you like knew exactly where I was going with that. But yeah, like I found like the game when I was maybe like 9 or 10 years old. And it was like one of the really, really old ones, like the old school original one, the OG. Yeah. And I just like fell in love with the fact I could build my own house. I could buy like my own furniture. I could get wallpaper. And I mean, I definitely used all the cheat codes to get it because they start you off with like 20 simoleons.
Mother load. Yeah.
Precisely. Like that's not enough to get you anything. So I was using cheat codes like crazy. Yeah. And you know, I think I've had more fun actually designing my house than I did in playing the game.
Yes, I'm the same way. I love making the people and making the house, and then the actual game, I would get way too stressed out because they were hungry or they needed the bathroom. I'd be like,
right.
Yeah. But the design element is so good, and it's funny that you say that. I've talked to several writers who use The Sims or have thought about The Sims as a sort of like nice playground for their characters in a way to really help like build and visualize it. Because not only you're building a house, but you're building a story world, you're building a setting when you're coming up with a book. So it's not surprising to me that a lot of novelists are also sort of Sims heads, as you would.
Yeah, but you know what? In the game, like they can like lead their own life independent of you if you like leave that option in the gameplay on.
Right.
Like, unfortunately, when you write a book, like the book's not going to write itself.
No, it is not. Yes, you definitely have to pick all of those elements. And I think what I love about this book is like every single ingredient is so deliberate. Like your setting in North Carolina is definitely something I wanted to talk to you about. I'm also writing a book set in North Carolina, so shout out to NC. But it's so fun to see these different settings, and I'm kind of curious. And you live so many different places too, just from your bio. I'm curious how you landed on North Carolina.
Well, you know what? At the beginning of the pandemic, I was actually planning a trip to Chapel Hill. I'd really wanted to go there. And unfortunately, you know, that plan kind of got scuppered. It went down the drain pretty quick. I still really would love to go, but, you know, I was really disappointed at the time that I couldn't. So I decided when I was writing this book, I would set it in North Carolina, but I also wanted to come up with a fictional location as well, which is Rosalina Island.
Yes.
Yeah. And you know what? A lot of people have actually like not believed it was fictional. Like some people in my publishing team, some CPs, some friends, random readers are like, where is that island and can I go there? Like, how can I book my flight and head over there right now?
Yes.
And me, like I created that from my head. And that's like the best compliment ever if you tell me that it sounded real enough that you want to go there.
It felt so real. And yeah, could you tell the viewers a little bit about how Rosalina Island like plays into the plot? Because it's a super special place for Rita and Milan in the book, right?
Yeah, they actually spent a summer there with their families when they were dating as teenagers. And it was kind of the place where they realized that they fell in love for the first time. And I really wanted to show them go back there to the same exact place where they were, which is a cottage, although it's not quite a cottage. It's a little bit too big for that, but it's called Bluebill Cottage. It's this very quaint beach house right on Rosalina Island. And it's where they first fell in love. And they're back there again now with all those old feelings and history kind of coming to the forefront of their minds and their hearts. And the house is a fixer-upper, definitely. And they, to put it lightly, and luckily for Rita, a lot of the work is already kind of underway by the time she enters the picture. So I got to focus a lot, not so much on like the structural stuff, which, you know, a little bit boring maybe for a reader. So I got to focus on like the design and like how she puts herself into the house and how together working on fixing it up and decorating it and like shopping for everything, basically playing house. Like Rita and Milan find their way back to each other. So the house is really, really important. And the fact it's set on an island was, I feel like a lot of times when you have like the meddling matchmaking trope, you have like the family and the friends very, very present on the page. And they're causing their own problems. And maybe they're really adorable and really frustrating while they're doing it. But I kind of wanted to subvert the expectation that, you know, her mother and her grandmother and people would be playing such a huge role in getting them back together after the initial meeting. So I really wanted it set on this island where it could just be Rita and Milan finding their way back to each other without any kind of outside distractions.
Totally. It becomes this sort of special place that carries a lot of weight for them because their past and their history is all on the mainland in North Carolina, right? But when they go out to this island, it's like they can start something new. They can start over. They're almost like different people there. And I love that they're setting up this house together. It was so cozy, such a warm feeling to picture them just getting settled in there. And of course, like I loved all the design elements. You have this table, which is just like so important to the plot and such a cool idea that it's like, you know, painted specifically with this scene that reflects the island and reflects Rita and Milan. So I love those little elements. Really made me feel like I was sitting there too. And it's a nice little vacation spot as well.
Yeah, it definitely is. Especially, you know, right now where, like, for example, I haven't been anywhere. I haven't traveled at all since the pandemic started. So it was a nice little getaway for me too, a little armchair vacation.
Absolutely. I love the fact that even though you couldn't go there, you were able to sort of write yourself there. So that's the power of writing, right? So transporting. So I love all the design stuff. I want to take a second to talk about someone else who's on the cover, or two other folks that are on the cover, which is Freddie and Harry, Rita's dogs, which play such a big role in this book. Yeah, please show those adorable little bushes. They're so cute. And they do such a good job also of kind of contrasting the characters, right? So you mentioned Neil, who's Rita's boyfriend at the start of the book, and those dogs don't take to Neil super well. They're always barking when he comes to the door and acting really frenetic. But then Milan comes and they're like best friends. The dogs have very distinct personalities. So I would love to know, like, what inspired that. Were they there from the beginning, or were you writing it and you were like, oh, this needs something else?
No, they were there from the beginning. Like, I knew like right at the start of the book when I wrote like the first chapter, they were definitely going to be there. They're Rita's family. She lives on her own and she has always wanted pets. So she did get 2 dogs right when she was like independent on her own. And that's kind of similar like to me in the sense that like I didn't grow up with pets. I didn't grow up with a dog. I did convince my parents to let me have hermit crabs at one point, but I know it's a really weird pet, but I didn't want a fish. I wanted something like a little bit more interactive than that.
Yeah.
Sorry, my fan has got like a bunch of hair in my face.
Oh my gosh, you're totally fine. That's the lip gloss problem, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I haven't given up my dream of wanting it's like a puppy or a dog or whatever. And I wanted Rita to have them because I want to have them. And I actually gave her 2 breeds that I really like adore, which is like a Yorkie Jack Russell Terrier mix and a French Bulldog.
Yes.
I love them. They're so adorable. They're so cute.
They're so cute. Yeah.
And they do such a good job of like bringing Milan and Rita together too. But yeah, they definitely don't take to Neil in the beginning. You know, dogs are like really good judges of character, as pretty much anyone who has one or knows even the tiniest bit about dogs is aware of. But yeah, they don't take to Neil. And really when every time Neil comes over, like Harry loses his mind and like barks and like acts like he's never seen this man before, even though, you know, Neil has given him plenty of belly scratches and head rubs and everything, but this all flies out of Harry's head. So when he meets Milan for the first time, Rita is really bracing herself for Harry to, you know, start barking his head off. And that doesn't happen because, you know, being the good judge of character that he is, Harry identifies Milan right away as like a good guy. And that's kind of a cue, you know, to the reader that, hey, Milan is the one for you. Ditch the other guy. And,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also like a cue to Rita, although she doesn't quite register it at the time. It takes a long time because like part of the reason that she does end up getting closer with Milan is that he takes such good care and like interest in both of her dogs equally, which is something like, you know, as a dog mom, like maybe you don't have favorites. Like a real mom hopefully wouldn't have favorites with her kids. Hopefully anyway. But yeah, so Rita really like appreciates that Milan spends as much time, you know, befriending Freddie as he does with Harry, because the dogs have very distinct personalities. They're very different. Milan is a lot more like Harry in the sense they're very charming, very effusive, very easily lovable. And Freddie's like a little bit more like Rita. He's a little bit reserved, aloof. It takes a while for him to let his guard down and let someone in. And like the effort and care that Milan puts into coaxing Freddie out of his shell, like really is meaningful to Rita, because she starts to think, you know, if Milan is putting in all this effort with my dog, like he's definitely going to be that interested as well in making sure that he and I have a good foundation as well if I actually give him a chance.
Totally. And I think That's the mark of such good writing, Lily, to me, is like every single character on the page, whether they be, you know, animal or human, has an emotional arc and a journey, right? And a place that they're going to. And I really think that that detail of giving those dogs, like, you know, a place to start and a place to go is just so smart. It just makes the whole thing so tight. Yeah, Julie's saying everybody arcs, right? It's a big thing. If you get a character arc, following it all the way through, it's so well done from a craft perspective.
Thank you.
And so this element doesn't have an arc, but I definitely want to talk about the food in this book. Like, if you are a design fan, the Shoddy Setup is the perfect book for you. If you're a food fan, the Shoddy Setup is also a perfect book. I got so hungry reading this. Like, seriously, particularly for that mac and cheese, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to call Lily and have her make this for me. There's a really diverse kind of group of food here. You've got Indian food that Rita's family is making. Her friend Raj, who I definitely want to talk about later, works at a cafe, and there's a lot of great food there. So you must have had so much fun, like, coming up with all of this stuff. Was it just like whatever you were in the mood for, or did you do some deep Googling on like what the best kind of thing is? Did the food have an arc or a story purpose, do you think?
I think the story purpose was more the fact that I, as a person, as a writer, I firmly believe like food is a love language. At least it is for me.
Oh, true. Me too.
I mean, you know, they say like the best way to a man's heart is through his stomach, but I mean, that is 100% true for anyone.
No,
like,
regardless of gender.
Yeah, regardless of gender, you know, like if you want to win me over, like just make me like your specialty and I will like love you forever. But yeah, like the food, it's interesting that you mentioned that because actually the food in the book is actually everything that like I eat like day to day or everything that I really am craving at the moment. And the mac and cheese in the book it's a savory Indian take on like a regular mac and cheese. It's called masala mac. It's not my own invention. It's something that, you know, a lot of Desi people eat. And it's something that my mom made for me growing up. So it has a lot of good memories for me. And it's why I wanted to show Rita eating this as well and really enjoying it. Like enjoying it more than one bowl, and even thinking like having that second bowl is better than B+ sex with Neil.
I know. I love that line. I was like, that says everything about Neil and this bowl of mac and cheese, which I need immediately. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like one sentence covers it. It's like a compliment to the food and a backhanded compliment to Neil, depending on what you think of a B+.
Yeah. I mean, for me, B+, you know, that means something. But cheese, there's cheese on the nachos. The cheese game was strong. And it's so great that you have this masala mac and cheese too, Lily, because I think it's also the perfect explanation for Rita, who's like a child of immigrants, right? She's in a fusion population. She's, you know, melding all these different elements. And I thought that was just the perfect, you know, way in. And another character that's doing this fusion so well is Rajvi, who, you know, it's a rom-com, right? You've got to have your bestie. And she's such an incredible bestie in this book because I think she represents a lot of the things that Rita wants. Like, she's a lot more free and open. She has an easier time taking risks. And you've also made her gender fluid, which is so refreshing to see. I think that like a lot of characters need to say, right, I identify as this, I identify as that. You have a beautiful sentence that I'm not going to quote because I'm going to butcher it about, you know, she is allowing people to reflect her gender back to her based on however she's expressing it. And I think that it was so well done in this book. And I wanted her to be my best friend. I wanted to be like on the couch eating that mac and cheese and watching a movie too. So I'm just kind of curious, like where that character came from, because I know every choice is so deliberate. So it feels important to the story.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Raj is like all my characters is a very personal, special character to me. Like, especially like as a queer person, I really wanted to show that, you know, Raj is a thriving, happy, like she is able to live her life without any kind of, you know, prejudice or oppression. And that was really important for me to want to show that, you know, even though this book isn't about them, like they still get to have like their arc on the page where they start off the story wanting this date with this another character who in the book who works
at Luke. Luke.
Who works at Lucky Dog Luke's, which is an antique store. that Rita frequents very frequently. And, you know, Raj really likes this guy, and she started off the story where they've matched on Tinder, and Raj is very, very, you know, horrified by that because they both like swiped right on each other, and now like they don't know how to take it back. And so I really wanted to show, like, you know, that they also had an arc, and it was something that I think everyone wants to see in a book as well, like no matter how you identify, that like there is going to be a happy ending for you as well. And I also think that, you know, with Raj and Rita and Milan and Neil, like we have 4 different characters here who are all of Indian heritage, but they identify and connect in different ways. So like Raj has been adopted from India. She doesn't have the same cultural ties to the community that maybe Rita, Milan, and Neil do, by virtue of like she doesn't have like the aunties. She doesn't have people nosing around in her business. She doesn't have a grandmother like Rita's, who was telling her that, you know, 26, 27, like you need to be married, you need to have children, like you need to make your family proud.
Right.
Like she doesn't have that in her day-to-day life. And then you have Rita, who definitely does face a little bit of that from her grandmother. But, you know, her parents are not forcing her to get married, which was another thing I didn't want to show. I didn't want to show any kind of pressure from her family, from her immediate parents, because that's not something I've personally faced. My parents have like never pressured me in any way, whether it's for career or marriage or anything like that. So I really wanted to show a character like Rita who got to pave her own way. And then you have Milan, who's also like, as you said, a character who is very fused by his heritage and, you know, currently where he lives and his life experience. And then you have Neil, who is probably more traditional than any other character in the book. He's okay with an arranged marriage. He's okay with being tied to someone else in a traditional way, compared to like Rita, who is absolutely not a fan of Neil's mother's antics and trying to get her son hitched. So yeah, I mean, all the characters are different and special in their own way. And I think they all represent like a different part of being part of the diaspora community.
Totally. And they're all valid, and it's such a spectrum. And I think you've done such a wonderful job of creating that. Yeah, I want to circle back and talk about Neil. That was like a perfect description of a mother who is like overbearing. I thought that it's funny. He's always on the phone with her every morning, right? Even right after he gets out of the shower. And I thought that was such a recognizable character, but he really loves his mom. And I think that actually gave me a lot of compassion for him. I know Rita was annoyed by it, but I was like, yeah, call your mom. The moms in this book are so, so strong. I think, you know, even though they're complicated and they challenge the characters a lot, I think what I really loved about them, which is true for all of your characters, is that they are complicated people too, right? They're not just monolithic mom figures. They're people who have their own hopes and dreams. And Rita's mother had a second chance story of her own. I don't want to spoil anything here, but I think it was really helpful to know like the real people, they've had their own struggles, and that, you know, this tradition is not clear for anybody. It's something that everybody's sort of reckoning with. So I thought that was really beautifully done.
Oh, thank you. And, you know, even that was like really important for me to want to show, you know, that relationship, not just between love interests and a rom-com, but even like with the family. Like, I think at its heart, like the Shoddy Setup is still very much a story about mothers and daughters, and maybe the way the children don't always understand their parents, or they internalize something when they're young that they don't quite understand and they're not quite ready for. And they just hold on to that as they grow up, and they never realize that, you know, they might have got the wrong end of things. So I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah, and they have a really beautiful discussion at the end that kind of clears the air between what Rita thinks happened versus what actually happened.
Yeah, which is so interesting too that you say that, because I'm thinking now that's kind of what happens with Milan too, right? Is like a slight misunderstanding, or the way that, you know, we tell ourselves certain narratives about the way that things unfold. And over time, through experience, we can reflect on that and say, maybe that's not actually how it happened. Or now that I'm in a different place with a different perspective, I can look at it in a new way. which is what a second chance love story definitely
Yeah.
is.
And I mean, there are parallels everywhere in this book, you know, between the furniture and the house and the relationship with Milan. Like, it's all about like rebuilding connections to other people. And I like, personally, that for me, that's just like I love that. It's catnip for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing with rom-coms, right, is like we do focus so many times on like the love interest and the protagonist, but you know, things like marriage and love have a wide impact, right? There are family and friends involved and a strong opinion, and you've managed somehow, like really through fantastic craft gymnastics, to sort of make it a love story for every single player, right? Like everybody is going on this roller coaster. Everybody has something invested. And I think when it all, you know, works out in the way that we're not going to spoil it, but complicated way, but a way that works for everybody, you know, it's really satisfying. You feel like everybody kind of got what they needed. Truly everybody, which is really a feat, very impressive.
Thank you. And that was important that, you know, the reader had that payoff. So I'm really glad that it did, at least for you.
Yeah, totally did for me. I hope readers and viewers, please check out the Shoddy Setup. You will not be disappointed. It is really, really expertly baked, like masala mac and cheese, just crispy on top. Lots of good stuff on the bottom. So one thing I wanted to talk about too is like the premise of this, right, is dating app. And I think you can't get that wrong. We've got Tinder and we've got myshoddy.com. And I think that, you know, modern dating, a lot of rom-com writers are sort of struggling with this idea that the meet cute, right, as we came to know it, is happening virtually, particularly during the pandemic for like a lot of people. And trying to make that feel just as organic or special is a big feat. Did you know you wanted to start with a dating app right away? And as you like work in the rom-com space, is there a way you're approaching that?
I think this is probably my only book that does center around a dating app. For everything else, they either know each other or they have like an in-person meet cute. There are definitely some struggles to doing it on a dating app, in the sense that sometimes it takes a while for them to actually meet on the page. So that banter really has to be like top notch.
Yeah, totally.
And I mean, I've read some books, like for example, there is Mary Choi's Emergency Contact, which is YA, which does it really well. A large portion of the book is just like, you know, messaging each other. And there are a lot of other like rom-coms that do it really well. But I didn't really want them to be off the page for that long. I wanted to get them in the room and see all that like chemistry boil over. And so for me, I didn't actually have Milan and Rita use my Shoddy to actually talk to each other.
Right.
It was just like the app which connected them, and then they just don't talk about it. It's like the elephant in the room. I feel like there was like a ton of tension already just from their history together, that I didn't necessarily want them to have more of it in a virtual setting as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think yeah.
Yeah, no, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that that's what's tricky about writing about contemporary love when you have this virtual space, because it's almost like you're trying to reconcile two different story worlds, right? There's the story that happens in person, and then the people we are online who are not necessarily reflective of the people that we are in person. So it's an impressive feat to be able to kind of juggle the two, but getting them in the room is so important. And I would say that to anybody. I met my fiance on a dating app, Big Lit Chick Reveal. And I think the key to that is like getting in person as soon as you can, right? That slow boil on the text message can continue forever, but gotta meet up. That's where the good stuff happens. That's where the amazing writing happens.
Definitely, 100%.
Yeah. So I think that's amazing. Do we have any questions from the audience yet? I want to double check and see that I'm not missing something. Looks like maybe we do. I know people are eager. Okay, we've got a great question here from someone I know. How is writing during a pandemic different than writing in the before time? So it's a great question, because you mentioned, right, that you wanted to go to North Carolina and you weren't able to, and you were spending time, you know, watching HGTV. like, how's it been? I think that, this is a question a lot of writers are getting right now. This book is like truly a pandemic baby, right?
Yeah, definitely. I actually got my agent and got like 2 book deals right at the beginning of the pandemic. So, I mean, I hate to say it because this has been such a horrible, like unimaginable time for the world, for everybody.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I have felt that I have been able to escape through writing. And, as a result, I don't include the pandemic in my books. Like my books you can consider them like AU, where, the pandemic doesn't really exist. Because I feel like we have so much of that right now in real life. I don't really want to, if I'm reading something for like entertainment or to satisfy something that I'm looking for, I'm not really looking to be reminded of like horrible things happening in the world. So I'm not including that in my books, at least not more than like a mention. But I mean, you're a writer too. I mean, is that something that you are including or?
I'm not, no. And I think, this time has been strange, but for writers, weirdly nice, and also emphasizes that escapism that you're talking about, right? Like if you're a writer, you're able to write yourself into a situation, or through your imagination, you can take any sort of hardship and transfer it into something beautiful or something interesting or something more than it might be. And so I think writers are enjoying this time. And I also think readers are really hungry for content that's going to allow them to forget about what's going on in the real world. And people are still falling in love every day, and people are overcoming challenges and taking trips and doing big adventures in spite of the pandemic, with safety. But people are living, so got to keep writing about it, right?
Absolutely.
It's not going to stop. Yeah.
And if you happen to like not be going anywhere, like books are like the perfect escape.
Absolutely. And that's why I love Rosalina Island so much. I was like, I think I messaged you this, but we were on a trip with my family to Carolina Beach recently, which is very near, I think, kind of where Rosalina Island might be, a little south of Outer Banks. But it was raining the entire time. And so I was able to be like, oh, I wish I was with Rita and Milan. It looks nice. We got a sunset. It's beautiful. There's a big rainstorm too, but they had some clear days, which was really, really great too. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Just want to check first because I know. Nope. Okay. Well, I want to ask you, Lillie, because I know you've got a lot going on, which is fabulous. Could you please tell us what's coming up for you? I know you've got more books of the works, so we're excited to hear what's next.
Yeah, I actually have another adult book coming out next fall called The Decoy Girlfriend, and this one I'm writing right now. It has my whole heart, and I bet if you ask Gabby nicely, she'll probably give you some sneak peeks.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so it's about an author who's caught impersonating her movie star lookalike, and then she's blackmailed into taking her place, including in dating the actress's really sexy co-star boyfriend. And this is like a little like sneak peek, I guess. But the guy,
like a sneak peek.
Yeah. The boyfriend, I don't know if you remember, but like last year at the start of the pandemic, there was this picture that went really viral about Logan Lerman with his graying hair.
Yeah.
And I saw that and I was like, okay, I want that guy for my next love interest, my adult novel. Like I picked him out before I even had the idea for The Decoy Girlfriend. I knew I wanted him. And you know what? Like he had a huge glow up because I remember the last thing of his I watched was probably the Percy Jackson movies.
Yeah, I saw like Perks of Being a Wallflower or something like so long ago.
Yeah, exactly. And then I also have a young adult novel coming out with Viking Children's in summer 22, which is a rivals to lovers summer workplace romance inspired by Disney's Beauty and the Beast. And it's a gender bent rom-com where it's actually the girl who's the beast. She's kind of curmudgeonly. So like this one is like a Grumpy and Sunshine where the girl is definitely the grumpy, which I feel, we don't see a whole lot of that.
No, we don't see it in books, but I see it in my personal life. Grumpy girls forever. Yeah.
I feel like I'm probably a grumpy girl. I don't know. But yeah, that one's called Beauty and the Besharam, and Besharam is Hindi for shameless, and it's all about, you know, this girl falling for her rival. It has some commonalities, I think, with the Shoddy Setup, in that rivals to lovers and exes to lovers do have like some overlap, in that they both have a history and they have like a bunch of reasons why they shouldn't get together. And like resisting each other, resisting their own feelings, and overcoming that is like also catnip for me. I love writing that. And the girl in that book actually has like a grudge list about the guy, all the things that she's not going to forgive him for.
Amazing.
And I feel like, you know, if Rita was, if that thought had occurred to Rita, she would definitely also have done that.
Yeah, never forget, write it down. Well, I hope that she's able to overcome them. I'm pretty sure she probably is, but that sounds fantastic. And I also just want to share too, like, we're doing a lot more of these rom-com interviews on Lit Chick, Lillie, and I love that you're bringing up these tropes, right? Friends to lovers, rivals, like these are ways that people kind of cultivate the rom-com genre, and I love that you're like very literate in them. Do you pick that first? I'm curious, or do you think you pick the character first and then find the story?
In the past, I would probably say it was complete like discovery, like just whatever my brain threw in there. But I mean, when I started writing this one, like I definitely knew going in it was going to be second chance, exes to lovers, and even like with my future 2 books, I decided the tropes like going in, partly because I feel like a lot, like as you mentioned, a lot of readers really like identify and find books because of the tropes. Like there are people in rom-com who like just read tons of books, all with their favorite trope. You know, whether that's there's only one bed, or exes to lovers, or rivals to lovers, or whatever. Like they're very, very loyal to these tropes. And with good reason, you know, like they work, they're very effective. And I really wanted to, you know, make it very clear right at the start of the book what I wanted that book to be, just so I could keep that in mind as I wrote it. That I have to like feed into what people reading that trope and reading in this genre really want to see. And you know, but the one thing I haven't done yet is there's only one bed.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone has done that one except for me. So maybe I'm gonna like shoehorn that in my next adult book. Because I mean, if you're fake dating, there's probably like lots of ways to connive your couple into getting into bed together, you know, for their audience, of course. Like to prove that they're a couple.
Of course. I love that. Yeah, it's so good to hear you say that. I think that readers love the tropes, and I also am sure writers do from like a craft perspective. It's really useful to have an idea of where it is you're going. And then what I love about rom-com is that you have this sort of more tropey or template space, and then you can play with all the little details. And that's why having the dogs and the, you know, interior design and the clothing, it really comes alive when you have that structure so strongly. But yeah, there's only one bed is so fun. I always love like anybody who's like trapped or stuck or whatever. It's like that's where all the tension builds, right?
Yeah, it boils over.
Yes, which is like so satisfying for readers alike. Yeah. Sounds like you're working on so much great stuff. I'm very like impressed with your output. I hope that like it's fun. It sounds like it's lots of fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It's definitely
the most
super
important
fun
thing. Yeah. And your book cover, I want to just like make sure everybody sees the Shoddy setup. You want to hold it up for us one more time. It's so cute. The dogs are adorable. And I don't know if you can totally see it on the screen, but like the pattern of the book, right? It's not just orange. It's got this amazing texture to it. And I love the cover so much.
Yeah, and you know what? Like the design team totally surprised me. It's kind of hard to tell, but Milan is like dropping the key to the house. Yeah, like right into her palm. And like the keychain is like my favorite part of the whole cover. I had no idea they were going to do this, but they surprised me with a little keychain, and there's a little blue house on it. And it's also there. It's also there on the spine.
Oh, I see that. That's so cute.
I love it. It's such a charming, cute little touch. Like I always talk about it. Like every time anyone mentions my cover, I'm like, but the keys. Did you see the keys?
Shout out to the Putnam book design department, and just like incredible detail. I think that like illustrators and book designers, that's just so much love. It must feel incredible to see it like reflected for you right there.
Yeah, I was really excited to see, like, everything about the cover was great, and I just love all the little touches that get added to it. I mean,
go ahead.
like the expressions on the dogs' faces are like they're spot on. Like Harry, yeah, he looks as impish and cheeky as I imagined him in my head when I was writing. So,
I love that. I love that. And did Rita look like you imagined her too? I mean, did you give them any directive there?
Yeah, I did send over like some reference pictures and such just to like make sure her look was right. She did turn out like a little bit different than I expected, but I mean, I really love overall the cover with like the black T-shirt, which
I know I was gonna say.
Yeah, it's like a little Easter egg.
Yeah.
So like when you read the book and then you look at the cover, like that reads so different now.
Totally. Yeah, Rita's got this black T-shirt that's like her favorite piece of clothing, which I think we all have, and contrasts so perfectly with Miss Milan. Shows up in these like swagged out outfits, and she's always just like, "I'm comfy," which I totally respect. And going back to what you said, I'm just thinking like it's so nice to have a female protagonist who's like working with her hands. Like that is not me like at all. I'm like very afraid of power tools. I'm also left-handed, so like I'm not even the best scissorer either, but like she is so good at all this technical stuff. And I think that like it's the opposite of the HGTV dynamic sometimes, right? Where you have like the big like hulking guy who's like smashing everything down, and then the woman comes in and does the little stuff. And it was so good to see Rita be like, knock it all down.
Like I feel like Rita would be a big fan of Demo. Like just like taking a hammer and like knocking things down,
which is amazing. Yeah, that would be great for I think all of us right now. Could use a little demo day, maybe
a little anger management.
Yeah, 100%. So I wanted to say, give you an opportunity too, because I know you have another event tonight. Is there something that you want to point people to as well, or there's an event at a bookstore, right?
Yeah, I have an event at Love Sweet Arrow tonight at 8 p.m. ET. And that is at a bookstore in Chicago. It's going to be a romance panel called Wild About You with a whole bunch of other really great romance authors. And we're going to be talking about the pets and animals in our books and a bunch of other authors' books as well. And that's going to be really fun if you love dogs and you want to hear me like wax poetic about the little puppies in this one some more, because I could talk about them forever. I honestly really could.
I love that.
And then I have another event at San Diego's Mysterious Galaxy at 10 o'clock. And that is with one of my friends and fellow author, Maisie Eddings, who wrote A Brush with Love. And we're going to have like a more informal in-conversation chat just about like my book and what we're working on and just basically everything.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm so excited that you've got like all this great stuff, and all the praise and the buzz is so well deserved. Definitely check out the Shoddy Setup, folks. It's great to have an escape right now, and I cannot recommend it enough. The payoff is like chef's kiss. So much fun. That mac and cheese is in there for you. There's not a recipe. Maybe you drop that.
Yeah, a lot of people have suggested that, and I definitely will. I'm probably going to drop that over on Instagram. And yeah, if you want to follow along with like any of my events or whatever, my Instagram is Labyrinth Spine.
Yes, thank you.
And my Twitter is Lillie Labyrinth.
Yes.
No particular reason why I have the word labyrinth in there. I just really love the word and the meaning it represents.
Sounds great.
My mom, when I first became an author, like with my debut novel, like back in 2019, I made my social media. And because I wasn't really using Twitter or Facebook, like anything before that, like I'm still probably like not really using Facebook for anything other than, author stuff. And my mom was like, you are going to regret not having your name across all your social media as Lillie Vale. And you know what? I have not regretted it once.
Yes, girl, through you.
So yeah, I mean, I do have to like give two different versions of it, but you know what? I love it. And I really hope that you guys follow me and like keep up with what I'm doing next. And I hope that everything that Alex and I have talked to you today about the Shoddy Setup really encourages you and excites you to check out the book. And
grab the book.
Yeah, and it's available everywhere, and you can borrow it from your library. Shout out to libraries. They are fantastic.
Heck yeah.
And I'm like so excited to see how many libraries like near me and here have like requested it, and like a lot of people have like 10 copies of it. Like I couldn't believe that, you know, like if I could go back and tell my younger self that one day you were going to have books in hundreds of libraries and bookstores all across the United States and the world, like I wouldn't have believed it.
Congratulations. Yeah, I feel like I fell in love with books in a library, so I love the library plug. And is there a particular like indie bookstore that you wanted to share too, Lillie? Is there a place locally where people could find the book?
You know what? Like where I live, I actually do not have a local indie. I only have a Barnes and Noble, but I would love to like redirect people if they like check out my social media to check out any of the bookstores that I am doing events with this week, because they are doing such a fantastic job of hosting authors and doing virtual events throughout the pandemic that, you know, you can't go wrong ordering from any indie bookstore ever. But like definitely if you want to support the Shoddy Setup, any of the bookstores that I have on my Twitter and Instagram, they have signed book plates available. So if you want like an autographed copy, like definitely buy through them.
That's so awesome, Lillie. Well, thank you so much. It was really so lovely to speak with you. And I also want to give a shout out to Julie Gerstenblatt and Jenna Paone, who've been part of this Lit Chick team, for letting me hop on here. Oh, I love the signature. Wow. I wish I had that loopy L, honestly. Should change my name to Lalix so I can do that. My ex is always like tripping me up. But this was so much fun. We've got a lot of really great stuff coming up on A Mighty Blaze, including Lauren Groff this afternoon. So stick around on the Facebook. But Lillie, it was incredible to speak with you about your book, and such a pleasure to read it. And I wish you all the best with the rest of the events that you have coming up.
Thank you so much. I had a lot of fun being here today and talking to you about everything the Shoddy Setup.
Yes, thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Thanks.